Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. President Donald Trump has raised the notion of delaying the upcoming election scheduled for November this year. Donald Trump has suggested that the mail-in voting will be subject to fraud and inaccuracy without offering any evidence. Donald Trump has again turned to Twitter to express his concerns, suggestions and opinions about the postal voting in America, which has been introduced because of the ongoing pandemic. Trump has said that the universal mail-in voting would make November's vote the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history, and it will also be a great embarrassment to the USA. I repeat, without providing any evidence, Trump has suggested that mail-in voting would be susceptible to foreign interference. Trump has also said that the postal voting was already proving to be a catastrophic disaster in areas where it was being tried out. Six U.S. states have been planning to hold all mail ballot elections this November: California, Utah, Hawaii, Colorado, Oregon and Washington. Now, these states will automatically send postal ballots to all registered voters, which then have to be sent back or dropped off on election day, although some in-person voting is still available in certain limited circumstances.
But I understand.
Half of the states have allowed any registered voter to vote by post on request. Critics of postal voting argue that people could vote more than once via absentee ballots and in person. However, according to numerous nationwide and state-level studies over the years, there is no evidence of widespread
fraud. And
fraud.
we'll always live by two simple rules: buy American and hire.
For more on this, we're being joined by our correspondent, Kate Fisher, live from Washington, D.C. Good evening to you, Kate. Now, Trump's latest tweets calling for the elections to be delayed. This has caused waves of reactions. What do we make of this? Is this a nervous Trump, or is this, considering the recent polls, is he trying to divert attention from the dismal financial situation? What do we make of this?
I think both those things are true. He's clearly not a man who is confident that he is going to win in November. Otherwise, he would be delighted to be holding the election then. And you're right, we've just had some utterly dreadful GDP figures for the United States, showing that the economy is in a terrible way. And of course, Donald Trump loves to tout the economy as one of his successes. So he'll be wanting to divert attention away from those figures. And perhaps that was part of the timing of this tweet. But overall, we need to say that it is not up to him when the election is held in the United States. The president does not get to call the election. It is in the Constitution that it is the Congress who decides when, where and in the manner in which this election takes place. And Congress, although the upper house is controlled by Republicans, the lower house is controlled by the Democratic Party, and there is no way that this Congress is going to allow a change in date for the election, particularly given that the polls at the moment suggest that presumptive Democratic challenger Joe Biden is way ahead of Donald Trump in many parts of the country, which, as you say, is one of the reasons perhaps that Donald Trump has chosen to try to sow this uncertainty about the credibility of the elections, because he can see perhaps that his poll numbers are not doing as well as he would hope, and he is perhaps trying amongst his supporter base, amongst the people who listen carefully to what he tweets, he is trying to suggest that these elections may not be credible, either because he is worried that he's not going to win and he wants to contest the results of them, or perhaps also because he doesn't want to lose face, and it is a way of scapegoating if he loses, that it wasn't down to him, it was down to the system.
Right. On this, Kate, we see that he's attacking the mail-in vote. Again, he's done this 17 times this month alone, saying that it will be inaccurate and fraudulent. Now, what you're saying there, are you alluding to the fact that Trump could perhaps be laying the groundwork here in terms of him contesting the results, especially where he could lose marginally in certain swing states?
Yeah, that's right. He has repeatedly, as you say, suggested that mail-in voting is not safe, it's not credible, it can't be trusted, it is open to fraud. He suggested that in one tweet that there could be thousands of people sitting in a living room with ballot papers everywhere, fraudulently filling them in. However, it needs to be said that there has been no credible evidence that this is a problem in the United States. There is no evidence, despite numerous reports and investigations into this, that there has been any widespread fraudulent behaviour connected with mail-in ballots. It is, as you said, it could well be a way of him trying to find an excuse for states where he may lose very narrowly, or and he wants to have a reason to go back and contest the results of that. Of course, if it is a very narrow margin that, say, Joe Biden wins by, he would then perhaps use this idea, the seeds of which he's already sown, that the mail-in ballots were not credible, they weren't safe, and that they need to be recounted, or there needs to be a revote. These are all potential things maybe that he's thinking about that he could use after the November election. If he has lost narrowly in certain states, he could go back and contest the results there. But as I say, there has not been any evidence that this is a problem. And indeed, as you quoted there, many states are already using mail-in ballot systems, or expanding the ability so that people who don't want to go in person to a polling station in November because they fear infection don't have to.
Kate, thank you very much for that report.